What if I told you that some of us are born with extraordinary abilities, not just being good at math or sports, but powers that defy the laws of physics? This is a world of the X-Men, a world where evolution has taken its next great leap, creating a new subspecies of humanity called mutants. But this leap hasn't been met with celebration. Instead, it sparked fear, hatred, and a desperate struggle for survival. This epic saga begins with two powerful mutants, Charles Xavier and Eric Lencher, best friends who shared a dream of a peaceful future for their kind. Charles, a powerful telepath, believed in coexistence, that humans and mutants could live together in harmony. Eric, a master of magnetism who survived the horrors of the Holocaust, saw humanity's fear and believed that mutants needed to fight for their place in the world, even if it meant conquering it. Their ideological split was a big bang of the mutant universe, creating the two most iconic factions, Xavier's X-Men and Eric's Brotherhood of Mutants. So, Charles Xavier, now Professor X, founded the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters. On the surface, it was a private school for special kids. In reality, it was a safe haven and training ground for young mutants to learn to control their powers and use them for the good of all mankind. The original team was a group of teenagers, each struggling with their own unique abilities. There was Scott Summers, Cyclops, whose eyes fired uncontrollable beams of optic force. Jean Grey, a telepath and telekinetic of immense, almost unimaginable potential. Hank McCoy, the Beast, a genius with superhuman strength and agility, but trapped in a progressively ape-like form. Warren Worthington III, Angel, a millionaire heir with magnificent feathered wings. And Bobby Drake, Iceman, the jokester who could create and control ice. These 5 teenagers were the first X-Men. They fought to protect a world that feared and hated them, hoping their heroic deeds would one day bridge the gap between humans and mutants. Their first major adversary? Who else but Magneto, Eric's new identity, and his Brotherhood. Magneto believed that mutants were the next step in evolution, Homo superior, and that they should rule over ordinary humans, Homo sapiens. This core conflict, Xavier's dream versus Magneto's crusade, would echo through the decades, defining the very essence of the X-Men. As the years went on, the roster expanded. The team wasn't just for American teenagers anymore. A crisis forced Professor X to recruit a new, international team to save the original members. This all-new, all-different X-Men lineup became legendary. We met Aurora Monroe, Storm, an African goddess who could control the weather. Kurt Wagner, Nightcrawler, a teleporting German with a demonic appearance but a gentle soul. Pyotr Rasputin, Colossus, a gentle giant from Russia who could turn his skin into organic steel. And of course, the one and only Wolverine, a Canadian loner with mysterious past, a healing factor, an adamantium-lay skeleton, and unbreakable claws. His gruff anti-hero attitude clashed with Cyclops' straight-laced leadership, creating one of the most compelling rivalries in comic book history. This new team faced threats on a cosmic scale. They traveled to the Shi'ar Empire, an alien galaxy, which led to one of the most famous X-Men stories ever told, the Dark Phoenix Saga. Jean Grey, after bonding with a cosmic entity known as the Phoenix Force, gained godlike power. But absolute power corrupts absolutely. The power overwhelmed her, transforming her into the Dark Phoenix, a being of pure destruction that consumed an entire star system. The X-Men had to make an impossible choice: save their friend or save the universe. Jean ultimately sacrificed herself, a tragic moment that haunted the team for years. The 80s brought another iconic storyline, Days of Future Past. We saw a horrifying alternate future where mutants were hunted down by giant robots called Sentinels. The surviving X-Men sent the consciousness of Kitty Pryde, a young mutant who could phase through solid matter, back in time to prevent the assassination that started it all. This story highlighted the constant threat of extinction the mutants faced and cemented the Sentinels as one of their most terrifying foes. The 90s were a golden age for the X-Men. Their popularity exploded, leading to an iconic animated series that many of us grew up with. The comics introduced new fan-favorite characters like the card-throwing Cajun, Gambit, and the high-flying, super-strong Southern Belle, Rogue. We also saw the rise of Apocalypse, one of the first mutants ever born, an ancient and incredibly powerful being who believed in survival of the fittest and sought to cull the weak from both humans and mutants. His Age of Apocalypse storyline created another dark alternate reality, showing a world where Professor X had died and Apocalypse ruled with an iron fist. But just as the X-Men reached the peak of their popularity, they were brought to their knees. In a storyline called House of M, the Scarlet Witch, Magneto's powerful and mentally unstable daughter, suffered a breakdown. With just 3 words, no more mutants, she rewrote reality, and when it snapped back, over 90% of the world's mutant population had lost their powers. The mutant race was on the brink of extinction. This event, known as M-Day, changed everything. The Xavier School was no longer just a school. It was a sanctuary for the handful of remaining mutants. The X-Men's mission shifted from fighting for coexistence to fighting for the sheer survival of their species. For years, no new mutants were born. The first mutant born after M-Day was a baby girl named Hope. She became a messiah figure, with the X-Men seeing her as their salvation, and other forces, like the villain Cable and the anti-mutant purifiers, fighting control or destroy her. This led to a desperate chase through time, with the X-Men protecting Hope at all costs. Eventually, Hope's return to the present day, along with the return of the Phoenix Force, reignited the mutant gene, but not before causing a massive rift in the mutant community. A war erupted between the Avengers and the X-Men over how to handle the Phoenix Force, which ultimately possessed 5 of the most prominent X-Men, including Cyclops. Corrupted by the power, Cyclops killed his mentor, Professor X, shattering the dream that had guided them for so long. This act split the X-Men in 2. Cyclops, now a revolutionary and considered a terrorist by many, led one faction, believing that mutants had to be more proactive to survive. Wolverine, ironically, took on Xavier's role, reopening the school and tried to honor his legacy of peace. The students were forced to choose sides, and the mutant community was more divided than ever. Recently, the entire landscape of the X-Men universe was reshaped again with the introduction of the living island, Krakoa. Under the leadership of reformed Professor X and Magneto, almost all mutants, heroes and villains alike, have united to form a sovereign mutant nation. Using Krakoa's unique plant life, they've developed miracle drugs for humanity and, most importantly, a way to resurrect any mutant who dies. They've established their own language, their own culture, and their own laws. They are no longer hiding in the shadows. They have declared themselves a world power. But this new paradise is not without its problems. Political intrigue, threats from anti-mutant organizations, and ancient cosmic dangers still loom. The dream of coexistence seems further away than ever, replaced by a new, more assertive vision of mutant separatism. The story of the X-Men has always been a mirror to our own world, exploring themes of prejudice, civil rights, identity, and the struggle for acceptance. From a small school in Westchester to a sovereign island nation, their journey has been one of constant evolution, of tragedy and triumph. They are more than just a team of superheroes. They are a family, a culture, a nation, and their fight for survival, for their place in the world, is far from over. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the history of the X-Men. It's a vast and complex universe, and we've only scratched the surface. What's your favorite X-Men era or character? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the world of comics. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.